and welcome to Small Town Big Business, a podcast about doing big business in small town rural America. We're glad to have you with us. I'm Jennifer Olson. I'm the Director of Business Development for the City of Marion.
And I'm Russell Williams. I'm Director of Ethos. Ethos is a small business incubator. We offer co-working spaces and also do training and development for small businesses and nonprofits. We're here in downtown Marion, Illinois, on the historic Tower Square Plaza. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you to our sponsors for sponsoring the Small Town Big Business podcast. So a shout out to Arcadia Wealth Group, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, the Swinford Media Group, Watermark Auto Group Foundation, Banterra Bank, and also Southern Illinois Now.
Well, I am super excited today because I have local business owners who are friends of mine, Glen and PJ Faith, and they run Mermet Springs. So if one of you would tell us, what the heck is Mermet Springs and where the heck is Mermet Springs?
Well, it's an interesting thing. Mermet Springs is a full-service dive destination and dive center and dive shop, which you would never expect to find in deep southern Illinois. So we are located in the middle of Massac County in a very rural area. I always tell people we're in a quarry between two cornfields. So kind of a surprise when you go through that area. Of course, now on the interstate, there's signage that says that we're there. And it's been an interesting thing to develop that. We started in 1996.
Okay. So which came first, the diving or the quarry?
So a little bit of background history. I started my diving career back in the late 80s. I was a police officer. I was an investigator with the Secretary of State Police, and I learned to dive on our state dive team. So I hired on with the Secretary of State in 1987, transferred to Joliet, came back to Southern Illinois, which I absolutely love. And one day my neighbor pulled up beside me on a country road like people do and said, you know, as a diver, and he said, you ever dive or check out that old quarry down in Massac County? Of course, I said, what quarry? So I went down in my police car and checked it out. And one thing led to another, and I located the owner and developed a relationship with them. Super nice people. And over the years, I got permission to dive it. Our state dive team was allowed to come in and dive. And eventually, we headed towards the business, which is now Mermet Springs.
Awesome.
Do you have any stories about being on the dive team? We'll get back to the business in a second, but that caught my ear really quick. I'm sure you got any that you can share.
Well, the dive team was very interesting because I learned to dive, and Jennifer and, well, her husband Brad is a diver. I still want her to be. I wish she could. Yeah, but,
and our daughter.
There you go.
A diver.
But whenever you dive, of course, you experience everything you can see underwater. Well, the first year or so as a diver on our dive team, you can't see. So everything is black. So it's all dark water. So stories, we've recovered everything from stolen cars to guns to, of course, resolved murders,
sure,
and bodies and things like that underwater. So some interesting things we've seen. I know in Joliet there was a place called Monster Lake. It was a virtual underwater junkyard.
Wow.
There was a cliff where they used to take all their cars when they couldn't make the payments any longer and ramp them off.
Whoa.
And I was one of the first divers down, and I started to explain to them that I found a car. I'm like, but there's another. I said, wait a minute, here's another. It was like sitting in an underwater junkyard. We pulled cars out of that place forever.
Oh my gosh.
So pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'd say.
So the contrast to some of our waterways in Illinois that you can't see anything versus the quarry, what do people see when they get there?
Well, it's very different. We're fortunate because the quarry itself was a limestone quarry. It was mined from 1956 until about 1972. It sat abandoned for about 25 years. So when I came down, it already had filled with water, and it is spring fed. So there's springs in the bottom of it, and so the water is beautiful. And we're still subject to storms and seasonal changes, etc. But for water, in a lake or in a quarry in southern Illinois, it's pretty spectacular. The best I've ever seen it in perfect conditions, from 100 feet I could see the surface. That's not common, but I've seen it that good. What is common is anywhere from 15 to 30 or 40 feet of visibility which is what you could expect to get in Florida and places like that. So it's been a great opportunity for local people to come in and learn to dive, because we do teach diving. We teach several hundred people a year, and to come back and practice, take continuing education and training classes. And then one of our favorite things that we do is we travel, as you well know. We travel literally around the world. And so we take dive groups, divers to destinations. Right now we're slated to go to Grenada in about 8 weeks or so. Truck Lagoon to do a World War II wreck diving in February. And we're going to Egypt after that.
Man, that's awesome. Super cool. Well, PJ, a little bit about your background. We heard a little bit on Glen. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I did not know about Mermet Springs or anything like that until I met him. And that's how I got into diving about 25 years ago. You have to be a diver to be around Glen.
It's a prerequisite.
So what she's alluding to, it was a prerequisite to date.
Yeah.
No, it really was.
It was.
When I first met her, you were working at Fifth Third Bank.
I was,
And
yeah.
I had 2 questions for her. One, you said, "You're a beautiful young lady. Are you interested in settling down and getting married someday?" She said, "Absolutely not." I said, "Perfect." I said, "Do you like water?" She said, "I love it." I said, "Would you be interested in learning to dive?" She said, "I would." I said, "What are you doing Friday night?" That was almost 25 years ago. We're happily married. We've traveled the world together, have 2 sons, and I could not be any happier.
Well,
amazing.
and PJ, you got to tell us about your sons. They've really grown up
They have.
there at the business, right?
Literally, yeah. I was fortunate that I was able to take them to work with me. And so, literally, since day one, they've grown up out there. I couldn't imagine a better place for kids to grow up because the diving community is so nice, so welcoming to kids. They love to see kids diving. And so they grew up. The second they could get certified, they were certified. And we were fortunate because we homeschooled them during their junior high years. And so they were able to go on a lot of the major trips with us. They've been Little Cayman, Philippines, Maldives. So they've been fortunate to go all the places with us as well.
What a
Amazing.
cool upbringing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
What does it take to maintain that? I read about the drainage system that you kind of designed and put in to make sure everything stays, clean and clear and all. Can you talk a little bit about the maintenance? I assume it's a lot.
Well, it's ongoing. It's every day. So when we started there was nothing. There was fallen in buildings, junk, scrap metal, a mud field, and leftover mining equipment. So when we started, we actually picked up and hauled off more than 100,000 pounds of junk and scrap metal. There was zero infrastructure. There was no electricity, no phones, no buildings. But what you see today, and Jennifer's been down there, what you see today was my dream then. And we've developed it over the years. So we had to put in docks and buildings and phones, just like any business getting started, I guess, but it's an open air environment. So we have, all the docks, we have to maintain everything that's underwater. Of course, there's a lot of, people don't think about the maintenance underwater. We do kind of a fun thing on Thursdays. We allow our local divers to come in and dive for free, provide them free air fills, and we give them a brush. And then they go cleaning. And we actually get the big map out and we assign them destinations underwater, and they swim down and they take a brush. It's a pool brush. And they scrub the silt off that filters down after rains and things during the week, and they keep things clean. We, of course, safety check. Safety is a huge thing. With my background, law enforcement, safety is way up here in everything that we do. So we safety check. We've got books that we keep, and all the normal maintenance of painting, cleaning. I always laugh when I was in high school. I worked at a gas station, a place called Fox Harbor, a marina, and I used to clean bathrooms and empty trash. That's why here I am. I'm 61 years old. I'm still cleaning bathrooms and emptying trash, but now they're my bathrooms.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of an upgrade over the years.
Well, and there's some features that they have to clean. I know when you travel, people ask about the logo with the plane because the plane is going nose first. So tell us about some of the things that you've added to the Quarry for the enjoyment of the divers.
Well, the Quarry is obviously not in the ocean, so we don't have coral reefs, so we don't have the amazing wrecks like Truck Lagoon or the mantas and the things that you go to the ocean to see. So things underwater are cool. You know, I know when I grew up in high school, it's kind of a quarry rule. If you own a quarry, you have to have a school bus. And the school bus is way cooler when you can swim through it and see fish swimming out of the windows instead of sitting on that bus for an hour and a half waiting to get to school in high school. So we've put a lot of things in there that are cool to dive around, also to help aid our instruction, because you can teach things like wreck diving. So we've got several Cessna airplanes, sunken boats. We have a houseboat in there. You can penetrate, dive through it at about 60 feet. They derailed 18 coal cars out in front of our facility several years ago, and we just wadded them up, blocked the driveway. It was a hot mess, but they got in like that and cleaned them up. And I'm not terribly bashful, so I asked the guys driving, I said, what are you going to do with all these wrecked train cars blocking our driveway? And he looked at me, I said, dude, I'm really not that guy, but I would like to have one. I said, can you ask? So he comes back later, flags me down. He goes, they said you can have one. So they donated a 37,000 pound aluminum coal car. So that made me really happy.
Super cool, yeah.
So we've got an aluminum coal car in the bottom, set at about 55 or 60 feet, which is a cool dive. With my background in law enforcement, of course, we finally got my Scuba police car in last year. And that hit the Facebook groups actually around the world, which is kind of cool, because one of the jokes in the industry is, well, there are no Scuba police. I said, well, actually there are, and I know where they park their car. And there's an ambulance and a fire truck that came from Quincy, Illinois. There's a semi-truck. And where we parked the police car, the Scuba police car, is where you were headed, is there's a 727 passenger jet. And that is a fun story. Back in 1997, Warner Brothers filmed U.S. Marshals with Tommy Lee Jones and Wesley Snipes down in southern Illinois and Tennessee in this area. Well, they brought the 727 in, and they contacted us about using our site for some of the filming where Wesley Snipes jumps off a cliff. Mm-hmm. So the front lady from Warner Brothers shows up. Man, I took her out in the boat. I'm getting her water, candy bars. You know, we just opened a business like less than a year. Warner Brothers shows up, I'm in. I mean, what a great opportunity to try to get your name out there as a new business. I mean, that's an open door, and I'm holding it open and begging. So I talked to her about the film a little bit. She told me about this 727. And it's so ironic because a really good friend of mine, Mike Scarborough, who used to just dive with me and there before it was even Mermet Springs, I remember sitting on the tailgate of his truck one night. I said, wouldn't it be cool if we had something in here that was sunk in here, like a 747 or something awesome we could swim through? Well, here's this lady with a 727. It's close enough. So she's got a 727. And she tells me about the movie and the filming over at Bay City. And we go back to the part where I'm not bashful. I said, so what are you going to do with the airplane when you're done with the movie? She said, I don't know. I said, perfect. Can I have it? She laughed too. She laughed. I said, I'm really serious. I said, you're not going to take it with you. It'll end up in a junkyard somewhere. What a great opportunity to help a local business, bring in tourism to our area, and you can release your interest in it and liability and walk away. Well, we'll see. So a few weeks later, she called me up and asked about me coming over and working for the movie set as a safety diver. Well, I was full-time still, you know, with Secretary of State Police and trying to start a business on the weekends. There was 0 of me left. But what's the old adage? I know a guy. So I called a dive master, a friend of mine, and they hired him. So he asked me, he said, man, what can I ever do to repay you? They paid him very well to sit on a jet ski and swim down, hook up chains and things. I said, every day when you go to work, you're going to find this gal. You're going to hunt her down. You're going to ask her, can Glen have the airplane? So I called him every morning. I said, Jamie, what are you going to do for me? Say, can Glen have the airplane? I said, perfect. Took about 2 weeks. She called up. She goes, leave me alone. You can have the airplane.
Persistence.
Persistence matters.
Yes.
So that was the fun part. So I got we made the deal. They sent me a contract, and I don't know if you ever heard the rumor or not, but the rumor out there is that I bought that 727 for $1. Well, it's not a rumor. It's true because I wrote the check.
Oh, my God.
Signed a contract, and we sent the contract to some law office in Chicago and made the deal. Well, when they were done with the filming, they moved the plane on a barge back to Metropolis. Well, I walked into the office one day and I was pretty proud of myself. I just bought a 727 for $1. I don't know what they go for at the average yard sale, but I think I got a deal. And so walked in and I said, hey, I bought the 727. I said, that's fantastic. Congratulations. You have 7 days to figure out how to get that off our barge. I said that and a couple other things I probably can't say. I said, oh God. So I called my sergeant, who was also on our dive team, and a good friend of mine, Mike Hoffman, and I said, Mike, I think I need 2 weeks off. I said, I got to figure out how to move this airplane. So we're talking about other businesses. I got a hold of Industrial Trucking and Rigging, who's no longer business, but was in Marion for years, and also Fabwell, Don Thomas, here locally in Marion, Williams County. And I said, I need help. Well, Industrial Trucking and Rigging moved mining equipment. So he comes down, him and Don did, and looked it all over. He said, no problem. I said, that's good, because it looks like a really big problem to me. So they ended up coming down with a couple of semis. We worked with a barge company, and they were so good to us. We were a brand new business, and I have no idea what retail would have been on this, but I think they moved it for us up the river for just like less than $5,000. It was very little for what they did. They had a barge-based crane, cutters. So we took this entire 727, cut it in half, picked it up with their barge-based crane, set it on 2 big lowboy trucks, moved it through the town of Joppa, up US 45, through our gate. I'd have a crane waiting there. Logistics I'm good at, cutting I'm not. So we got I had a crane there. We put it back together and actually bolted it back together. And then it sat there, and then the question is, well, how do we get it in the water? So now I have a 727 sitting 300 feet from the water. Well, I got a hold of a crane company out of Paducah, and they told me how much. Well, I was going to sit there for a while. So it was a lot, and I don't blame them, but they would have had to have done 2 picks. So at that point, how do you move big things? You put tires and wheels under them. So I come back to Fabwell. This is deep southern Illinois farm boy ingenuitiveness. And I have some really good redneck friends who are awesome. And so I had Don Thomas come back down, and I borrowed 2 forklifts from him. And if you saw the movie or get a chance to watch it, when the plane comes in, it rolls over it's upside down. Well, that's how we received it. Well, a 727, the bottom of it is all hard structure. And there's basically an aluminum tent over the top where you set. What's setting upside down? So that's how I received it. And there was some metal structure so it didn't crush. Well, I wanted it right side up.
Oh, is that all?
That's all. He said, okay, not only do I have to move it, but I have to turn it over. So I got a napkin, started drawing pictures. I'm an engineer also. And so, as a joke. So we started figuring out how to do it. And we took the forklifts, lifted it up, and I found an I-beam left over from the quarry. We set the back on an I-beam and welded semi-tires and wheels to it. On the front, I borrowed a steer axle from a semi. There was a plate up front. We welded it to it. We put a tongue on it. You could pull the 727 around the parking lot with your pickup truck.
Oh, my God.
Man, that's amazing.
So we had to get it to the water. Well, how do you put things in the water? Well, you build a ramp. So I borrowed a bulldozer from a friend. Borrowed him, too, because I wasn't that good with a bulldozer. And he built a ramp. Well, if you build a fresh ramp, what's it do? It sinks. So you can't just back it in. So I went to one of my guys who had a farm, and we used railroad ties, and we lined the ramp with railroad ties. We built ramps on top of it. I had another buddy who drove trucks, so he's backed semis his whole life. So borrowed the neighbor's big green John Deere farm tractor, set this thing up. We built the tongue so that it would actually spin so we could roll it over. And if
Those pesky wings get in the way of that rolling over?
They actually they clipped the wings off.
Okay,
Someone stole the wings before I got to it.
Okay.
So I've got the big tube. I got the body of it. So we set it all up, lined it up, and we used what's called lift bags. Lift bags look like giant pillows. They're filled with air. So one that's maybe 8 feet long, 4 feet wide will lift 6,000 pounds. Well, this thing was close to 40,000 pounds. So we had multiple lift bags on this thing, and I configured them all so that when it went in, it would want to roll over and upright itself. We built the tongue to do that. So we lined it all up, and I told James, I said, and the I said, once we start, you can't stop, because the airplane was this wide and the gap that it went down was that wide. We didn't have 6 inches on either side. I said, no matter what you do, you got to put it in the water. Once it's in the water, we can move it. So he backed it down, never touched the side. It went in. You could just hear that plane groan. Turned over, axles and wheels came up. Tractor didn't go in. The farmer was really happy.
Yeah.
He actually made us tie a cable to the bulldozer, to the tractor, just in case. At least if it went in, it wasn't going along. So we went in, rolled it over. The axles came up. It floated itself up. We went out with a torch, cut off the axles, floated it, and pulled it to the other side. We had an area already set. We went ahead of time and found a place that was 114 feet long, and actually got on our hands and knees to roll rocks out of the way, so we had a smooth area for it. So we set the tail at 15 feet and the nose at about 45 feet. So that's where it sits today, and it's been there since 1997, and literally thousands of people have had an opportunity to dive on it, through it, to get their rec certifications diving on it. And as you mentioned, as part of our logo, the diver's flag, diver's down flag, is a red square with a white stripe going through it. So it was another business over in Union County that come up with their very first shirt design. That was their idea. They were smarter than me, but I liked it a lot. I said, can I have that? They said, sure. And so the thing that goes along with Mermet Springs, and it's about everything that we've done at our business, it's diving first class, which is as it goes along with that 727, and everything we've done in our business has been about diving in first class. That's how we built the facility. That was my goal from the very, very beginning, was not to be another quarry operation or just another inland dive destination, but was to truly raise the bar and set the standard for what diving could be in the Midwest. And that 727 is kind of where it all started.
What a story. And you're like a year into business at that point. Were you thinking at any point, what am I doing? There's a lot going on here. This isn't kind of what I signed up for.
I thought that every morning when I got up, and I still do some days.
What are the most challenging parts for you guys? Because a lot of this sounds fun and entertaining, but we know that running a business is challenging.
You want to jump in?
Oh, I think a lot of it is fun. We're very fortunate with what we do because it doesn't feel like work most days. It's hanging out with our friends and family, our dive family. The challenging part is finding time for just our family. Like, it is challenging. Our kids are growing up. They're adults now. And trying to find time with just our kids is hard.
So you talk about becoming a destination. So tell us, I know obviously you mentioned that you have initial diver training, specialty classes, but also I hear people camp there. I know you have clubs that visit. So like, how far away are people coming from? How often are they coming? Like, what does that look like?
Well, the business is very multifaceted. So like any, I think probably smart business, when you walk in the front door, whatever you have other opportunities once you get there. So we started off, actually, before the Quarry was there, I started off as an independent instructor. So I taught scuba from my house, from my basement, as some independent instructors do, and I did. That's how I got started. And once we moved into the Quarry itself, and we've got a dive shop there on site, now we have a full service dive center with all of the retail sales, and we sell training, all the equipment and things of that nature. And that equipment needs to be serviced. So we have a service technician. Yule Sharp is amazing, and he does all of our service work. So people come in and do that. Once you get on site, what can you do? Well, there's tent camping. There's beautiful places all around the Quarry. It's just gorgeous. You can come and camp. We've put in RV sites. There's 10 RV sites on site as well. So that's a pretty amazing opportunity. We have a lot of local groups come in from churches and things like that just to feed the fish. I mean, and we don't charge for anything like that. They come in and we got giant catfish that come up and they feed them hot dogs or bread and things like that. We have people sometimes that come in and paddleboard. There's just endless opportunities. It's just a beautiful piece of land, and the water is amazing.
So how far reaching do you draw from? Like where are your visitors coming from?
So the majority of people will come from the Midwest, the probably 5 states or so around us. We, on a regular basis, reach up into Wisconsin, Ohio, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana. Did I miss any?
No, you've hit the major ones.
The major ones. Now, how far? I have groups that came from Canada. I have one lady who's been here from Great Britain twice. We just had some folks that were there yesterday. We opened up for their group. They flew in from California. We have people that come up from Texas. So all over the United States, even other countries. Diving the 727 might be a little bit of a draw, but we've been open for a really, really long time. And we've been open long enough and done well enough. We've had other destinations even call asking for help to get started and direction and things like that, which makes me feel really good because my goal, like I said, wasn't just to sit on the tailgate and collect money. My goal was to really raise the bar and the standard for what diving could be in the Midwest. 2/3 of our world is covered with water. When you learn to dive, you get to see and explore the rest. And it's something that, like PJ and I were talking about with our kids, and it's a family thing. It's so important. It's probably one of my favorite things that we do now. And we've had several really fun, interesting families come through this year. And to watch them come in and learn to do something together, like scuba diving, where they're put into an environment where they equally depend on each other and need each other. It's a very different way of communicating, of trusting, and of bonding. And I know how it is because we're just surviving it with teenage boys. Dad's cool meter starts to go down pretty quick when girls start to show up. But when we start diving, I'm still cool, and they'll still listen to mom, and most of the time. So I think one of my favorite things that we do anymore is when we have the opportunity to train couples. And for PJ and I, when we dove together, people always laugh when I say that, and I don't mean it to be funny, but you're forced to spend an hour together without talking. Okay, see, I got it. Without talking, but completely depending on each other and trusting each other. When one of our sons, Ray or Riley, were 10 years old, if I would have had an issue with equipment, I would have depended on them to share air with me just as much as they would have depended on me. It's an equalizer. No matter what your background is, what your profession is, your age is, everything is equal underwater, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, very cool. So how's the marketing work? So you mentioned the Facebook groups. Is that how people are learning about this? Or is that diver community just that tight where it just kind of spreads?
Well, of course, it's multifaceted, and we've watched it change. We've been there long enough. I remember thinking, I wonder if we should get a website. It's kind of funny, but it's true. So, that's kind of, and so we've been through a lot of the developing and social media platforms. Word of mouth always is still the very best locally. We do Facebook things and direct emails and working through our dive centers is tremendous because we're their destination. So if you have dive shops in St. Louis, like Great American Diving or Waikiki or Scuba World, some of the big shops Midwest, they come down here. They need an open water environment to complete their training. So they bring in 20, 30 people at a time. Locally, people go, where are you going to go? Well, I'm going back to Mermet. That's where I started. I'm comfortable with there, so that helps a lot. But the website is huge. Direct mail, Facebook, social media groups, all of it comes into play.
I would just add, because I've been blessed to travel with this crew, that sometimes when your group is coming in or out of a destination, there's another either shop or club or group or just big group of friends that are coming in to stay at the destination that you're unfortunately leaving. And, they'll have their brand. And I've seen a lot of outreach of tell us about where you dive and all of that. And even some swapping of branded merchandise and things. So I think being out across the world is probably a big help too.
Yeah.
Well, and locally, we're a sponsor at the Hub here in Marion. And Chris, who's Gigantus, who's the GM there, he and I have been friends forever, since we were young and I had hair. I've known him for a long, long time. I followed him from Delta Health and Wellness. Do you remember Delta?
No.
See? I told you a long time. That's when I had hair. And followed him to John A. Logan and then here to the Hub. So we're a sponsor up there. So we're very blessed to be able to use that facility. It's a beautiful pool, but we use that pool. We're going to be in it tomorrow evening, testing some of our new dive professionals. So, sponsoring and working with local pools and other businesses has really helped us as well.
What would you say to the local family or person who maybe thinks it's intimidating to get into as an activity or as a sport or however it's classified?
Sure. The thing that we do that helps most people get past that, I forgot the exact statistics, but it's like the majority of people have an interest in it, but many never ever do because they just never take that first step. We do a program called a Try Scuba, and it's TRY, not TRI. So it's a Try Scuba experience. And we actually do hundreds of those a year. And it's really a great opportunity for people because they come in and for the price of a pizza, with your family at one evening, you can come in one-on-one with an instructor and go diving. Now, you're not going deep. And you got to do all the paperwork and everything ahead of time, but you're breathing underwater. When you're underwater, how I explain it to people is everyone's seen TV and the space shuttle and people are floating weightless. It's exactly what it's like. It's the most amazing feeling. And I weigh about 230 pounds, so that's a lot of weight to be less. So when I'm floating underwater and I can float down, touch something with my finger and just slowly spin backwards, that's what it feels like. So to give someone an opportunity to actually breathe underwater, feel what that feels like, and if we do it in the Quarry, they have to schedule in advance. We have to assign a professional, but if they schedule that in advance, then they get about a 30-minute experience or so. They get to swim with the fish, and then some people go, not for me. And that's okay, because if it's not their cup of tea, I don't want to take their money for a class, and then, I don't want that. But about 9 out of 10 times they go, that's way easier than I thought. That was cool. When's your next class? So it's a great opportunity for us to, pick up new customers and to filter out people who it may not be for them. It's not many of them. It is terribly addicting. I laugh as I retired from the police department. Now I'm a scuba drug dealer. You want some air? Yeah. It's very addictive once you try it and you feel what it feels like to be weightless underwater or to see some of the things you see. I remember I've got pictures in my office of PJ, with giant mantas in the Maldives, or a picture of our son free diving with a whale shark, in Oslab in the Philippines. Just the things that you see and experience, they'll take your breath. Just amazing.
And I would just add, I would encourage anybody who tried, and you all might want me to strike this, but anybody who's tried resort-based instruction, possibly from someone who did not habla inglés, to give a professional, if you had any interest and you got spooked by that, please give a professional dive shop like Mermet a chance, because it's going to be a totally different experience. So I don't want people who had a burn out of the country to say diving's not for me, because you might be pleasantly surprised when you have the right tools and the right training. And the other thing I would say is, if you can hump your gear, you can pretty much do this sport at any age, any weight, any ability. I've been very surprised. We've had people on trips that had a cane, but they were mobile, had enough mobility to get in the water. And then it's really kind of a magical, freeing experience for people who have some sort of mobility issue or other thing, because they're equal to everybody once they're in the water.
And that's really a good point, because I get that question. It's both ends of the spectrum. How old do you have to be? And then people say, well, I'm too old, which is kind of funny to me because age is very much perspective. Mm-hmm. I know Aleda's going with us to Egypt and she's going to be 80. Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
And, awesome. It's not uncommon at all to have people in their 70s or early 80s still out diving. we may need a little assistance when we get to that age, but once you're underwater, you're back to the weightless part. And the mobility is there. They feel young again, and it's just spectacular.
Very cool. You don't seem like people who are just resting on your laurels. What's next? I'm sure you're just always thinking about how you're going to keep growing, and anything you can share.
Well, it's been a very interesting run, and there's always things that are coming new and changing. There was a new product just came out, new type of BC and things. So there's always equipment advances, especially with all the new AI things. And there's always been changes in equipment and things like that. We're maintaining a lot. We might have a lead on another bus she was telling me about. Department of Corrections bus. I'm not sure we have to paint it yellow and call it a school bus. Sure, the Department of Corrections bus might go. But we're always looking to add things. I've always wanted to find something like a fighter jet or something like that to put in. And people call us all the time with different things. We have plenty of boats. No more boats. People want to donate boats because they are in their yard and they want to get rid of them. So we have plenty of boats. We're always looking for interesting things to add like that.
So I think one thing that people would not credit you all with is I think there are people who have seen parts of this world that they never would have seen if it wasn't for diving, because you really do. I call it valet, but it's all inclusive, all of that. And for example, I was fortunate to go to Fiji this year, and they had so much demand from basically Southern Illinois that they had 2 trips. So this one resort was full of Southern Illinoisans for a full month. I'm not sure. I hope we left a good impression on it. But I feel like there's people who want to cross the pond or get outside of our borders, that this is maybe the first time they've really done in international travel. Is that fair to say?
It's extremely accurate. We have so many people that we have to say, you're going to need to buy a passport. And they haven't traveled or they have flown very little. And I look back at my life, I didn't fly on a commercial airliner until I was out of college. My parents have never been out of the country. And I've filled up passports. We've been taking our kids since they've been in swim diapers. They've already filled up a whole passport. They've been literally around the world, and so many people. I love deep Southern Illinois. It's beautiful. It's hometown. It's where I want to raise my family, and I want to live to the end right here. It's beautiful. But getting the opportunity to see, experience, and explore the other countries, one thing's for certain. When I come home, I thank God every time when we land on U.S. soil and that we live in this country. It's an amazing place. We've been to Cuba. Big difference. We've been to third world countries. Egypt is a very interesting place. And, there's challenges there. We'd have an armed guard with us, and we had a wonderful time. The Red Sea is spectacular. But I'm telling you, when you come home, there is no place like the USA.
I have to share a fun story from traveling to the Maldives with our kids, too. When we came back, about a year or 2 later, there was someone who needed to complete their dives with us from another dive shop. She started in Spain, but wasn't able to finish. So the dive shop from Spain contacted Glen and said, I know she's coming in to dive. She said, by the way, I don't know if you remember me or not. I was your dive leader on the boat in the Maldives. And she sent a video of Riley, our youngest, and her having this fun little handshake that they made up together.
That's awesome.
Such a small world.
Yeah, it seems like a tight community.
Yeah.
Do you remember being in the bookstore that time? A story I'm going to tell?
I don't think I do.
We were in a bookstore over in Carbondale, and the kids were looking through and all the pictures of the ocean animals, and they were looking through all the pictures and everything. And like, well, we saw that in the Cayman. Well, we saw those in this country. Or we saw one of those, in this country. And I thought, you know what? Most kids just read about it. We didn't, just read about the aquarium. We took our kids into the aquarium. And so that's all they've ever known. They literally have traveled around the world since they've been small.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you guys have a favorite spot across the world that you've enjoyed the most?
That's hers. I know what she's going to.
Yeah.
It's so hard to answer when people ask. I think if I could jump on a plane and be there today, Little Cayman, hands down.
Really?
Yeah.
What made it so special?
the dive shop over there is just so nice. And the only thing on that island, well, no, I'm not going to say that because you've traveled the whole island. Yeah. The only part that I get to see is the resort. And it's just quaint. It's nice. The diving is incredible. It's easy diving. You just get to go and relax.
That sounds nice, yeah.
Yeah.
It's everything that you conjure up in your mind as a perfect destination. It has white sands, great hammocks, perfect food, friendly staff, nice boats, Bloody Bay Wall 10 minutes away. I mean,
And how deep is Bloody Bay Wall?
It goes to the bottom at 4,000 feet. But we don't go there.
Right, no. I'm not scaring. I'm saying it's like amazing.
There's only a couple hundred people on the island. You talk about a beautiful escape. And her and I agree. I mean, if there was only one place I could go, of course, where she went, I'm definitely going. But, we would probably go to Little Cayman. And I've done World War II wrecks. Like I said before, we've been to Galapagos, the Philippines. Every destination holds something special. It really does. Little Cayman is just kind of got it all wrapped up.
Well, since PJ opened the door, I'll say if you're a couple and one of you dives and the other doesn't, don't let that deter you from joining the trips if you can, because I've kind of enjoyed becoming the land expert and sharing things that I find and encouraging people, because there's usually the off day at the end where you can't dive because you're flying. And then by that time, I've built a whole list of fun for the divers to get off the resort, but also when people are like, oh, what do you do all day? I was like, well, it's just such a burden being either one or one of 5 people who has the entire resort to yourself all day. I mean, I was like, the bartenders would swing by, are you sure you don't need any, like we get you food, and I was like, short of a fan and some grapes, I didn't need anything. I mean, it was amazing. So it's just, they do a great job of getting people to and from their destinations and very smooth. And I shouldn't say this every time because I'll jinx this, but sometimes if your plane is delayed but you have 40 people with you, the next one will wait for you.
We pulled that off once or twice.
Yeah.
Well, love it. Anything else we're missing that you want to share with people? How, even if it's the community, how can people help you and help you grow?
Well, we have been very blessed. A lot of other businesses have stepped up and helped us get started in the beginning, and we in turn, we see to other businesses if there's something we can do to help them. It's tough at the beginning, and knowing that you've got that support, the old saying, don't forget who brought you to the dance. That's one of my rules, and I've never forgotten those people that helped us get started in the end. And when we have an opportunity to see someone starting up, we try to help them as well. As far as advice, learn to dive. It is easier than you think. It's two long weekends, and it's a lifetime certification. There's very few things that you can do, get certified in, or experience that will last a lifetime. Like we talked about, even to your 70s and 80s, it's something that you could do during retirement. Professionally, we train all the way through instructors. And when you learn to dive, you get a license to see, explore, and experience the oceans and the other countries and the people, the rest of the world. It's like a passport to the rest of the world for us. It's been spectacular.
So if somebody is curious and they want to check it out, do you want them to look at your website, come for a visit, meet you at the hub? Like, what's the best way for them to get rolling?
Probably the very best way is go to the website, because there's a lot of information. They can pick where they're at and kind of decide. And of course, the website is just mermetsprings.com. And from there, if you email, I get all the emails. So it's going to go to Glen with one N at mermetsprings.com. And then depending what you're needing and asking, then I will funnel you the correct direction. If it's a try scuba, I do the scheduling. If you just want a tour, or if you're interested in learning, we'll schedule an orientation. We'll come in and spend an hour and a half, walk you around, give you a tour of the facility, get you signed up, talk about scheduling. No shortcuts. When we do it, it's about doing it correctly from the very, very beginning. We could sign you up over the phone, and if I can keep from that, we don't do it. I try to invite people in because I want to meet you. I want to learn why you want to learn to dive. I want to know what your goals are, where you want to go. And then I can better tailor what instructor I put with you, which class you go into. We can work on crazy schedules. What keeps most people out of diving isn't money, it's time. And we've got about 25 instructors. So the ability to schedule around people and their lives and their schedules and their kids and swim meets and track practice and life is what allows us to get a lot more people into the sport.
It's awesome.
Yeah, love it.
Great. All right. Anything else that you want to share? I think you've done fabulous.
Yeah,
but
this is great.
I don't want to miss anything.
I want to come down and dive.
There you
Good.
go.
Yeah.
Do it.
Well, email me. I will set you up.
I'm in. A wife and 3 daughters. They'll love it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is addicting. It really is, and it's way easier than you think.
Yeah.
People think, oh, guys, see these people swimming underwater and all that equipment. It's really not hard. We teach kids 10 years old. And they do really well. It's the adults that are challenged. 10-year-olds, especially when they're there with their parents, are trusting. Oh, mom or dad's doing it. And off they swim like little fish. So it's way easier than you think. You ought to email me. We'll schedule it.
I'll email you today.
We'll take you diving.
I'm in.
Deal. All right. Now it's a deal.
It's a deal. On tape. Luke's got it.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. And I look forward to, seeing how we can help you grow. And if there's anything that we can do, let us know.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you
Thank you.
all for the opportunity.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you for joining us on our episodes of Small Town Big Business. And we want to thank our sponsors for sponsoring us: Arcadia Wealth Group, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Swinford Media Group, the Watermark Auto Group Foundation, and Banterra Bank in Southern Illinois now. And also reach out to Union Street Arts. Luke O'Neill is our producer of this podcast. If you want to know more about Ethos, the small business incubator, courses and classes and mentorship, you can reach out to ethosmarion.org and find all about us.
And thank you so much for finding us. Please stay with us. I encourage you to go back and listen to prior episodes. There's some very good gems there and some great backstory to where we are today. We appreciate a share, a rate, a review. All of those things help us grow our audience. If you want to learn more about doing business specifically in the city of Marion, I'm your person, Jennifer Olson, Director of Business Development. You can find me on Tower Square Plaza at City Hall, and you can find my contact information on LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us.